paix son eau, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. La paix son eau, bye bye. La paix son eau, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. La paix son eau, bye bye. Descend sous portail, ma terrible centenaire. Moi descend vol en mer, moi relais à quoi côté où la paix sous nous, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. La paix sous nous, bye bye. La paix sous nous, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. La paix sous nous, bye bye. La paix sous nous.
Only got wheels in the back, so you like tip it when you roll it. Yeah. I'm gonna move this stuff so it won't fall off.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, so it's just tips forward, and then you unlock the wheels. Well, you unlock the wheels and you tip it forward. Yeah, and then move it, and then move this. Yeah, take the table because there's just going to be poets reading from the podium for the second half. I guess you could leave the tables, just kind of leave them a little behind, and maybe bring up a few more glasses.
rolling, blood flow. Here we get up and rumble, and the crowd in an uproar. All of a sudden, everything just up and chill. Everything just gone to a standstill. The crowd started to cuss, yeah. We're wrong with the man. It wasn't wrong with the iron God on fall because the vibration bust with the welding. When the iron fall, it humbled the pan, and everything started to crawl, everything started to fall, and the truth was plain. See, the engine room is down the way that's caused the back canal. The pan is the body, but the rhythm is harder the thing. The engine room, that is the solar carnival. Oh, read it damn well, say if you iron good, you is king. You hear? Check your grandmother, talking to the neighbor next door. If the times didn't change up, or now we'd still be in big war. That is the same woman who put out your mother because she was in love with this fan man. She used to open the church door just to pray on my head. Now she boasting to the neighbor next door, oh my granddaughter beats for a steel band. If it wasn't for you, girl, your daddy would have been so dread. But when you see her in the pain, I just have to think again and take it out on the sleep. The engine room is done to it, it's done to it, it's done to it, it's done to it. Man to tell you that his in-laws were outlaws. Yes, the engine room is the healing of the nation. Sometimes others just felt laugh at the bloody thing just because, you know.
Quiero contarle, mi hermano, un pedacito de la historia negra, de la historia nuestra, caballero. Y dice así.
Hey everyone, if you would find your seats, we're going to get started. Wow. Ta-da. Lights. All right. All right. Welcome everyone, and welcome back to some of you to the Center for Fiction for the 5th Brooklyn Caribbean Literary Festival. My name is Melanie McNair. I'm the Senior Director of Public Programming here, and it's been my honor and privilege to collaborate with the 3Ms for the 5 years of their festival. We opened this building in 2019, so we've kind of grown up together doing programming in this room. We'll just pretend that the pandemic didn't happen and we were here that whole time. Just a couple of housekeeping announcements. There's a bathroom on the back wall, so if you need to go, get up at any time and do that. The bar will be serving drinks until about 8:30 this evening, and there are books for sale on the cafe counter toward the end, so get your money ready to buy books. And it is my absolute joy to introduce you to Marcia Messiah, one of the founders of the Caribbean Literary Festival.
Good evening, everyone, again. Thank you for being here. I think I get tired of trying to pick which of these events are my favorite, and I feel like a hypocrite because every time I come up here and I say this is my favorite one. But for realsies, this one is my favorite. Welcome. Laureates of the Caribbean is how we pay homage to our griots, our storytellers, not the ones who write fiction, poets, the ones who kind of shape our world and go underappreciated all of the time. This year, when we thought about how we wanted to approach the program, Attila on my left has been, I don't even know how to describe the friendship and the support that she has provided, and the work that she's doing deserves all of the visibility that it can get. So we kind of riff off of each other. And if you know anything about Attila Springer, you will know that she's covered by the banner of her incredible mother. And there really are no words to describe her own, her contributions to Caribbean storytelling and how we keep our stories. So we decided that we were going to split this program in two and offer a very rare glimpse into the life of her mom and their relationship and the work that remains unsung because we believe in giving our flowers, in giving flowers when those who deserve them are still with us. So this is history in the making. You may not realize it, but it's history in the making. And again, I'm very honored to usher in a new chapter of how we tell our stories. Aintu Springer, Miss Aintu. I want to call her Mama Aintu because, but she and Attila are the directors of Idicata Group, a family-based collective of women leading groundbreaking cultural work in Trinidad and Tobago. And in the intimate conversation we're going to experience this evening, we'll hear about the intersections of personal and political responsibility. And Attila will lead a discussion on her mom's life and legacy from her humble beginnings in Santa Cruz, Trinidad, to the vanguard of the Black Power movement, from spearheading emancipation celebrations to pioneering the National Heritage Library. So when we're talking about archivists, they're in front of us here today, so I really hope you appreciate this. Ms. Mama Aintu will discuss a lifetime of friendships and collaborators, of whom we are the most recent, the growing popularity of Camboulet, and finding balance between being a mother and an artist. A little bit about who we have, and the very handsome Ajani, who gave me like a little drum intro, is her grandson. So again, this is truly a historic moment for all of us. Attila has written and curated content for television, print. African spirituality is central to the things that they do. And most popularly, perhaps, in this iteration of her work is what she does at Carnival time with the Camboulet the ritual reenactment of the Camboulay riots, which has given Trinidad, and by extension, the rest of the world, the carnival that we all know and love. Aintu Springer, on the other hand, the lady of the moment, is the recipient of a national award, the Hummingbird Silver Medal from Trinidad and Tobago, for her contribution to the development and propagation of arts and culture. An award-winning actress, Dr. Springer held the title of Poet Laureate of Port of Spain from 2002 to 2009. She's also one of the most prolific female playwrights of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. Her plays have been performed internationally to critical acclaim. They focus primarily on the heritage and culture of her birthplace, from harmony and diversity to Camboulay, Baby Doll Meets Midnight Robber. They all contain authentic historical information and facts. This ensures that her plays are not only educational, but they reveal aspects of the indigenous culture of Trinidad and Tobago which may still be unexplored. She conceptualized and managed the Junior Best Village program for 3 years. In 2004, she was awarded the Vanguard Award of the National Drama Association of Trinidad and Tobago, an organization that she helped to form. And in 2018, she was awarded an honorary doctorate in fine arts by the University of Trinidad. So when we're talking about a cultural Sawati, I mean, that's what we have here this evening. So please put your hands together and help me welcome them both. And I get real buff in my uniform in the public library when me and my friends, when you were the steward, you were the librarian there, I get real buff as a teenager, which has served me in very good stead, probably. So Attila, please take it away. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Marsha. Thank you so much to the Brooklyn Caribbean Literary Festival for having me back once again, and for also now opening to my family, who, you know, are such an important part of my life. So we don't have plenty time. So, and from the bios, you know that Miss N2 is, you know, an extremely prolific human being. She writes every day. But I wanted to start by reading something that I wrote for her a couple of years ago. It's an oriki, which is a Yoruba praise song that, you know, and if there are any people who are practitioners of Ifa Orisha spirituality, you know that, you know, the praise song is an important part of the poetry of Yoruba spirituality. And so this is a praise song that I wrote for Miss N2. N2 Ifaniwa, daughter of Ida. N2, my mother, is the mother of 3 and many, many more. She keeps her children's secrets buried in the many folds of her skirt. She who does not rest, she who magically turns stone to feast, who knows her true height, so large is her presence when she speaks. And who came to earth, Ogun's Ada in hand, she was ready to fight. She has made her home in a fortress of words, and two of the clenched jaw. She remembers pain lived for many generations before her. She knows the names of all the great ones. She knows the names of those who were unknown. And two of the eyes that flash with rage. She does not live in the house of patience. And two, so beautiful, so black, she shines like 1,000 lonely tears on the face of Oshun. And two of the magic cloth, she spends her days weaving stories. She weaves and weeps for children she did not give birth to. The children of her belly plead with her to rest. And two talks all night to the spirit world. Her children fear, she loves the spirits more. And two, Ifaniwa is not afraid. And two, Ifaniwa will not turn to stone. If mother is gold, and two is made of something far more precious. And two, the unknown metal of love. And two, the unknown metal of commitment. She walks gently on the breast of the earth, holding her children close. Miss N2.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. it is a great tribute to Mother to be orikied by children, whether children of her womb or children given to her by the universe. It is a special moment for me. This is 3 generations on stage. Me, my daughter, and my grandson. Let us celebrate the African family. I think all they could do better than that. Because our families are in a lot of trouble. I'm going to start my reading. It's called Poem for Papa Jimpy. And in true respect for my ancestors, this poem is written for my paternal grandfather, who came from St. Vincent, and who I feel is the one who obeyed me. So I'm going to do this poem for Papa Jimpy to begin as a praise song to all my ancestors and all our ancestors who paved the way for us to be here. A mask from long ago creeps from the shadows onto the face of now. O lover of memories, bring me the boli, yes, the very one used by my grandfather to pour libation to the ancient ones. I see him now, Congo man, by way of Yulu land, risking again the perils of the sea to come to Trinbago land. Papa Jimpy, beloved black face, carved, sculptured, vest of flannel, wide leather belt, poya neatly in scabbard by his side. I can still hear that deep, haunting voice as he held my little hand and sang the sad plantation song. None to wipe my eyes, none to dry my tears, I alone in sorrow. I must go, I alone in sorrow. I must go. My spirit caught in the rising, swirling smoke of Papa's magic pipe, tobacco's ritual link to those beyond. Oh, behind me, as his eyes became unseeing. Oh, behind me to tell, to sing the songs of our pain, the stories of our triumph or survival. Transpose it all to plays, to poetry. Papa, singing, his voice so strong, seeming to come almost up from the ground on which he stood, willing me to fight the unfinished fight, find the unknown songs, the magic stories of retention, of resistance, and sing them, tell them, spread the word of pride in African heritage. Make sure that education's elevating, yet divisive force never could, never would remove me from that path. He knew the herbs for healing, and those that gave him never-ending virility, even to the time of his death at 106. I remember the shaddock tree, the large plum tree, the chickens running free, the huge dirt oven from which came wondrous smell. He watches me, I know, Papa, protecting me, smiling at my spirit, still caught in the rising, swirling smoke. From the shadows, his ancestral masks guides the face of now, always in my dreams, talking, admonishing, blessing, singing his plaintive plantation song. Who will wipe Who will wipe those tears of ancestors gone beyond?
So I understand that everyone has a little shot glass of 10 to 1 rum. And I want, as we pay homage to our grandfather, our great-grandfather, Papa Jimpy, I want everybody to raise the little shot of rum that you have and remember one of your own ancestors. Remember the names of those who have gone, who might have given you a story, who might have given you some bit of energy, who might have given you some bit of what inspires you to do the work that you're doing today. Right? So raise it, drop a little bit on the ground for them and knock it back for the worms too. Miss Entu, that poem, conjures up your early years in Santa Cruz, and the fact that irregardless of how much good education you got, because in the year that you sat the exhibition exam, which was the exam that preceded the common entrance exam, you won one of 200 scholarships to go to secondary school. No mean feat. And in fact, your mother was fired from the job that she was working at with the Portuguese people in Samoa because their daughter did not get an exhibition scholarship and she got one. Right? So, again, Obia. But, tell us a little bit about leaving the village of Santa Cruz and going into Samoa to live, and also going into St. George's, where you got a completely different sense of education and a different framing for that education you received from Papa Jimpy.
Yeah, well, to come from the bush with no running water, no plumbing, no electricity, but the magic of moonlight nights, the magic of growing your own food, the magic of fruits, the magical river behind the house, the magic of stories. And I want to say I would love to see this festival move to a point where we have storytelling, where you could bring the children, because storytelling is such a potent way. And I remember those magic nights. And people said we were very poor, but they don't know we were very rich, because I have no bad memories of that magical time and the moonlight and my mother's magic cooking on the coal pot, picking the cocoa and fresh cocoa tea. And when the moonlight, you're seeing the Julie Mango, beautiful in the moonlight. You hear the cicadas. People thought we were poor, but we were very rich. And I have magic memories of those times. And coming to St. George's, I realized that I was poor and black. But the setting and the framing of that growing up strengthened me, and I met wonderful teachers. I met a woman called Gloria Valere, the daughter of the great Lord Constantine, who introduced me to C.L.R. James's writing, and eventually C.L.R. was able to be one of my mentors. In fact, he gave me permission to turn his only novel, Minty Alley, into a play. And I began to understand. Larry Constantine wrote a wonderful book called Color Bar. I understood my blackness, the reason for the rejection, and all of that, and was immeasurably strengthened. And my writing began there. They realized that I liked to write, and I was allowed to put up bits of my writing in the back of the classroom. I was encouraged to go to I created the first St. George's College magazine. I was allowed to leave school and go in town and hunt for support. And really, really magical. And they guided me into going into the library to work. And librarianship became my lifelong profession, which was a stimulus to so many things in my life. And then while there, I came to England in 1969, got involved with the Black Panthers, and went back home and was immediately involved in Black Power Revolution. And I was very responsible for the cultural arm of that movement. If you'll permit me, I would like to talk.
Of course, Miss Entuel.
I would, the Black Power Revolution, people do not understand the effect that it had on some of us who were active. And we made transformational change in the society. I mean, before the Black Power Revolution, nobody looking like me could work in a bank. You could
Ms. Entu, sorry, not to cut you, but even within the library service, you also faced a lot of racism, and in fact, it was the racism that you faced in the library that prompted you into what you ended up being involved in the West Indiana.
Exactly, because one day a white woman from the area came, and I was at the desk, and she coughed in my face, and I coughed back in her face. And the people said that I didn't have desk persons. So they shoved me into the little cubicle where all the West Indian books were, a little hole, and that is where my ancestors wanted me. So I used to steal the books and carry them home and read them and bring them back. And the librarian in charge said to me one day, Miss Oatley, I realized that you're very interested in reading the books, so that we have a new program coming on television called Issues and Ideas, and you will go and talk about the library. I was 19. I went like this. And she didn't look at me. It was just an edict that she gave. And that was my beginnings of all kinds of things. But the one who suffered most from 1970, I think, was my mother. And I would like to talk about 1970 through the experience of my mother. So this poem is called Miss Ida. Her knees, a deeper shade of black. She spent the sleepless nights watching, waiting for what tragic news may come to call. Her knees, a deeper shade of black. Petitions posture, begging the God to whom she prayed to spare her errant child. This wayward girl child she could not understand. What she quizzed her God, his saints, was this absorption with a history of a word she scarce could bring herself to speak. That thing. Now we are free. Now the job, education, mark her child for success, position, maybe even society's recognition. Now at an end, the years of scrimping, working, callous hands testimony to years of cleaning, cooking, ironing. Why, child, why risk it all, throw it all away? Comes now often the trampling of muddy, brutal boots into her small apartment. Poised to kill, they point their guns, laughing in the face of the terror in the eyes of little grand girls, and promised her a state-sponsored bullet for her daughter. Messiah walking back straight, head held high, walking proudly to her church and back, feeling the warm the support of those who understood her daughter's fight against all inequality, for all black like them, like she, and loved the mother for her goodness, her charity, even in the face of her own poverty. I watched in time the tortured mind bend, break, nerves shattered by the constant clicks of pointed guns, of muddied boots, the waiting for whatever tragic news may come to call. Miss Ida, you did not understand until the past of many, many years, this quest for self, this mission sealed in the universe, in Papa's ritual, tobacco smoke, all inequality, this urge to fight, all inequality, for all black like we. Forgive me, Miss Ida, for the terror, the pain, but I confess I will do it all again, for all who black and coming after me, after we.
Miss Ida actually did suffer from a nervous breakdown during the 1970s due to a lot of harassment that was happening. I mean, you know, there is a missing part of the story that is told about our nation. My eldest sister, she says that she was not affected by the raids that happened at the house. She was born in 1966, so she would have been 4 years old when they first started raiding my grandmother's apartment in Laventille. But the year when they raided the house and destroyed all the toys, for a year after that, my sister, his mother, asked only for a gun to shoot the police for what they had done to destroy her grandmother's house. So, these poems also tell the story of family pain, family trauma that we're still working through. We're still having conversations about there. There are some things that we won't even talk about today because the tears will flow too much to continue the conversation. And so I want to bring it to another point of the conversation where we talk about one of the things that used to happen, Miss N2, I remember you telling me that you always used to dream that the police were going to raid, and so they would never find nothing. But that introduces another part of your journey and your journey into reconnecting with your African spirituality. Miss N2 was a member of the Legion of Mary in her teens. I don't know if you all even know what the Legion of Mary is. That is a thing that good Catholic girls do. But at some point, that got left aside. And Miss N2 began to move closer and closer into exploring her spirituality that had come out of her African ancestry. And that led her to the yard of Laureates Melvina Rodney.
Yeah, I want to say that one of the most important things that we did in 1970 was to go into the Roman Catholic Cathedral and drape the statues in black. And I see a straight line from that, from Bookman at Bois Cayman, calling on his people to get rid of the symbol of the God of the white man. Every attempt at emancipation in the Caribbean from slavery, from enslavement, was motivated, was supported by African spirituality. And wherever we get together as African people, we cannot forget Haiti. We cannot forget Haiti. We cannot forget Haiti. So this poem begins in Creole, which we spoke in my village. And is one of the prayers that was used in Haiti at the time of the revolution, calling on Legba, Elegba, to open the gates, to open the doors for us. Atibon Legba, ouvrez bayon pour moi, Atibon Legba, ouvrez bayon pour moi. Cry glory, glory to Legba. Cry praise, praise to Legba, Legba, oh, Eshu, oh. Help Legba, help your children, Legba. Children struggling, Eshu, guardian, guardian of the road. Help us, we can't find the right road. Where are you, Ogun, oh, warrior, oh. Teach us again how to fight for what is right. Give us your spirit of battle, Ogun. Did you come? Did you come again as Bookman and we killed you? Did you come as Dessalines and we killed you? Did you come as Cecile Fatima and we killed you? Atibon Legba, ouvrez bayon pour moi. Ouvrez bayon pour nous. Call him Babalao, Pungango, Kadombleo, Lukumio. Did you come again as Maurice Bishop and we killed you? Did you come as Malcolm and we killed you? Did you come as Garvey and we killed you? Walter, oh. Ya Santiwao, Nzengao, Malio, Harriet Tubman, oh, Fano, oh, Butler, oh, Marisho. We have lost you. All of you. Lost you disguised in robes of white saints. Atibon Legba. Ouvrez bayon pour moi. Spirits moving in the trees, spirits tossing in the seas. We salute you. They have gone. Legba, Legba, Eshu Egum. Now it's me and you. Now it's me and you.
Miss Entu, you have seen some things in the region, and it's not just in Trinidad. I mean, the struggle began in Trinidad. Well, it began for you in London with schoolmates, Althea Jones. It continued into the 80s, and it is not possible for us to have this conversation without mentioning, I mean, we have to say his name. His name was said already, but we have to say it again. Maurice Bishop, who was a friend, a family friend of both of my parents. You know, but what happened in Grenada was, it was not just what happened on October the 19th. It was all the years leading up to it when there was a regional movement of intellectuals and cultural workers, people like George Lamming, who we lost last year, people like C.L.R. James, people like Dobry Nomad, who is still with us. There are quite a few people who banded together as a region and saw the region as more than a bunch of tiny islands all fighting separately. You don't have to say anything, but I felt like it was important for me to say something.
I will read a little bit of it. It's very painful. It's very painful. It is the destruction of a Caribbean dream. You don't know what it was like in Grenada. The whole population was galvanized. All the artists of the region were there. I heard my poetry, I saw my plays performed in Grenada more than I ever did in Trinidad. Our brothers and sisters from Cuba were there, from Nicaragua, from Grenada, from Guyana. I can't read the whole thing, but I'll read a little bit. I've no more tears. Those ducks have been put through a ringer of pain. My soul has bled for Walter Rodney, Mikey Smith, Beverly Jones, Guy Harewood, and many more. Now for Maurice, for Jackie. My generation bleeds, giving blood in hope of giving life. I have no more tears. As mother, I feel my womb twist in pain for those who mourn sons, daughters. As woman, I feel the aching in my guts for those who lose husbands, lovers. As child, I feel the fearful void of parents gone to green the earth they loved. I have no more tears, but still they come, wrung out from my entrails, leaving the painful guts dry, flaccid, still seeking to find the courage to go on through mist of tears that will not be denied. My generation bleeds. The bravest, strongest spill their blood in hope, and powers large loom to fight battles of ideology in Caribbean lands. And powers large loom to push alien concepts in our midst, belying often canted myths of sovereignty. I watch my generation bleed. I cry inside, Maurice, Maurice, Maurice. I have no more tears, but still they come unbidden. History recycled. Danton, Robespierre, Bolsheviks, Meneliks, Louverture, Christophe. Black blood shed in vain pursuit of alien ideologies, all armed to re-enslave. Power too dons the mask of ideology.
But you're a survivor.
You know me? I named Survivor. I survived through the strength of my culture, beat out in the skin of the drum, beat out in the steel of the pan, sung in the Calypsonian song. they root me out of my mother belly in Africa, the seas run red and millions died in that mighty crossing when they bring me to the Caribbean to make sugarcane king. But I named survivor. They make me a slave, an orphan, a tree dig out from the roots. But I named survivor. In these new lands, the Caribbean, I grow new root and I spread branch too, because I named survivor. In open war, in subterfuge, I wage a war with all my might and I burst them chains that did bind me tight, because I named survivor. Now I'm fighting still to know myself, to love myself, to free my mind, surviving through the strength of my culture. Beat out in the skin of the drum, beat out in the steel of the pan, sung in the Calypsonian song, surviving through the strength of my culture. I named survivor.
Miss Antu, a huge part of your survival is through your mothering work. I have to confess that she was and remains a very hands-on parent.
That means I interfered. But there's no apology.
So, and you've written poems for all of us, your children, mother of three, mother of many, many more. Of course, she's going to read my poem because I don't want to say I'm the favorite child, but I am, yeah. I'm special. That's all I'm going to say.
This child, by the time she came, too much story to tell. But by that time, I bought a home, and it was the same year that I got pregnant with her that I bought the house. And there were fantastic stories of evil in the house and all of that. But I knew from my mother that if you are pregnant, that the unborn child protects you from evil. This is what I was told. So I went in the house brave and bold with my big belly and defied any negative spirit interfering with me and my unborn child. So I got...
You were Obia working from a long time.
So I got a rocking chair, and she came at a time when she was very lucky. So she had her own what do you call it, lullaby. I wrote a song for her, and I would be in the rocking chair, with her. I wrote this poem for her, and there's a song. I have been blessed with many gifts, but I cannot sing, so I wouldn't try. But this piece that I'm going to do has its own melody, I'll just hum a little bit. And as I rock you gently, I will sing to you of skies dawning to the bright lights of hope. I will lull your slumber, not to the hollow sounding thuds of lash on raw black flesh, not to the clank of chains, but to a roar from throats, sounding freedom. Sound freedom into the ears of generations. Pile edifices to deeper freedom, truer freedom. Sound freedom won by Ogun's reddened machetes. Sound freedom won in war and subterfuge. And I will soothe your sleep with tales of Toussaint, Dessalines, Kofi Kojo, Nani, and Bookman. I will show you your ancestors, labeled warrior, never victim. I will teach you a history of resistance. Suck from my breast the will to fight, the strength to hope. Suck from my breast, my love. It is a season to bind in love. It is a season to sow seed, plant fruit, spawn nations. I will sing to you of freedom.
Now we're going to our dread one.
Yes, well, we cannot miss the discussion on this topic all over this country. Apart from Trump, this is the thing that is most talked about. I will not say the name, you will work out what it is. Do not curse me for interrupting your life. I did not want you. Do not haunt me. I did away with you. Have I no right to decide what happens inside me? I have my guilt for interrupting your life. I did not want but to be rid of you desperately. Allow me the right to decide what happens inside me. Will God curse me for interrupting your life? Will He give me no more chances to reproduce life? What do preachers know? Mostly they're men anyway. They never felt an alien, unwanted thing growing inside them. I did not want you. I have the right to decide what happens inside me. Who knew my fears, my terror? Who felt my anguish? I had 1,000,000 reasons that said you should not live. The pangs of guilt don't mean that I am sorry. I know I do not give life. For me, it's just to carry life. But I do have the right to decide what happens inside me. I do, don't I? So what's the name of that one? What's the name of that one? Abortion? Yeah.
She's still a teacher at the end of the day. Okay, get both. To take the mood up a little bit. Let's take the mood up a little bit. This poem is special to me in the sense that I was studying in Jamaica in the early 2000s, and I was doing a project on skin bleaching. And I was really frustrated by the process because, you know, I was spending a lot of time in downtown Kingston talking with Black people about their self-hatred. It was really, really difficult for me. And I remember I was setting up this exhibition, and I called Miss Entu and I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Help out Arastana. And she said, all right. And then she called me back later the evening and she read this to me.
All right, now all you have to help me with this one, There's a chorus, and it says, I'm loving the skin I'm in. Will I can say that? I'm loving the skin I'm in. All right. I will tell all you when. I'm loving the skin I'm in. I'm grateful for the melanin that signals my kin with an ancestry going back to prehistory. Kemet, Timbuktu, Zimbabwe, Songhai, Benin, Nigeria, Ethiopia, all part of the past that must influence my future. Watch me, I'm flaunting my melanin and I'm loving the skin I'm loving the skin I'm in. Of all civilization, I am the origin. I've survived the horror of slavery, and now the diaspora receives my legacy. I'm building despite centuries of brutality. I'm singing praises to my melanin, and Akhenaten and Nefertiti, Hatshepsut and Zinga, Nania Santiwa, Sam Shab Garvey, Kojo Kofi, Malcolm Bookman, Shaka, Harriet Tubman, Kwame Ture, all warriors, black man, black woman, fighting, surviving from prehistory to present reality. After the worst Holocaust of all history, now I walk full of all their energy. Watch me, I'm praising my melanin and so clothe me in perfect beauty, mind, spirit, body, holistically. I center the world around me and reach for recognition, visibility. I heed the bidding of Garvey to emancipate myself from mental slavery. Watch me walk into the 21st century, bathed in the light of black beauty. I'm moving to my own rhythm, to a drum of my own begetting. Watch me, I'm praising my melanin and I'm loving the skin I'm in.
Hey. Okay, Miss Antu, of course we run out of time, right? Okay. But we have this one more poem. You have to read it fast.
All you have to help me do this one.
But you see how Eshu time it? Eshu, Miss Bonnet.
Okay, this poem.
You're reaching time.
This poem is, and I'm calling out here to my sister Mavis John. This is a piece called Jazz in the Callaloo, for which Mavis, one of our great jazz singers, and I pay respect to Bonnet, one of our another great jazz singers, who just walked in. And Mavis, where you? Mavis, along with Ewart Sarant, a guitarist, composed music for this piece. So she's not here. So, as I said, Ewart, who composed the music for this, said that I have no allegiance to key. So I won't even try to sing, although boldface will still sing. But I want you to just give me one line at the end, like you did just now, and this line is, bringing some jazz in the Callaloo. All right. You'll help me? All right.
From here? From over there? You sure you don't want a microphone in the audience? Yeah, you can lead the audience.
Leave her. Okay, so I want to try and sing it, but I don't want to be disrespectful in the face of Bonnet. Right? So it's just bringing some jazz to the Callaloo. That's it. Bringing some jazz in the Callaloo. All right. I cut up all the oak crows. Everybody here can make Callaloo? I hope so. That song ain't weak. I cut up all the oak crows. the dashing bush too. Onions have me crying, but I'll get through. Lord is cooking, cooking, cooking. Always what I wish it have me in a stew, but it's just something that I gotta do. So turn on the music, the songs that I cherish, but from jazz to callaloo, and no big time switch. Same old blues are singing, whether in New York or in New Orleans. Same old bills need paying, same brothers putting me on scenes. So I make believe it's the onions as I weep into the stew. And then I hear Miles wailing, Coltrane, Hawkins, and Hodges too. Gets and bird at the bossa nova. Man, this music taking me higher, lifting me by its magic from my despair, and soon I humming into the stew. Bring some jazz to the callaloo, alright. My mommy always tell me, get this your them book and them you like to read. Them I go full no man belly or feed your family. True, you have to take education, but girl, learn to cook good too. If it's liberation you after, it's like we don't have that. For it's black woman toting we people for centuries and we back. And the secret of we power over every race of man is in the mystery of black beauty and the sweetness of we hand. From the kitchen to the bedroom, them man them only following we pot, waiting for we to get them food sweet and piping hot. So don't follow nobody who tell you cover down your pot. They have to take the heat from the fire, though I know that it's rough. And when you see you feeling bitter, sweeten up the brew. I'm a Jamal, Ray Charles, Mr. Gerald, and Lady Day too, and Child do put some. Hey, I have my own Kaiso jazz, a special kind of flavor. Them brothers real good, Bugsy, Zander, Coleman Hawkins, and Ritanka. They have so much fame, but I see them put Marcellus to shame, and that's true. And the Kaiso man, they call him David Michael Rudder. When you see started jazz with brother, we know it's one diaspora, jazz, Kaiso, bossa nova, all paying allegiance to we mama Africa. So when all they saying to getting down with me Swiss a stick in my hand, I just hear the pain in the music spreading all over the land, but laughter keep coming through to look the hot pepper going into bringing some. The children so demanding, for nourishment they always crying. It's from my belly they come in, so I have to keep giving, giving. You think it don't get me weary, the load that I have to carry? But while I cooking and feeding, who bothering with what I needing, eh? Or even if I have any feelings, I'm going to turn up the music higher, to drown out these thoughts that will only tire, along with Nina Simone a hurting. At the DNR's power are bursting, and like Mavis John are begging for a love that's satisfying. I bend low over the pot, fragrance come up strong. I put in my magic something, flavor overwhelming. Cocoa one side, cornmeal dumpling finish, stew chicken kicking, but me, I crying inside. And that will not do. I'm going to turn up the music. Leave the fire sizzling. And I'm going to find some jazz for my callaloo. I'm going to find some jazz. Thank you.
Woo! Miss Entu, thank you so much for sharing your poems and your stories with us. We've come to the end of Laureates of the Caribbean Side A. Stay tuned for Side B. Side B is going to be fire, 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 fire. More fire, more fire, more fire. More lightning and thunder and things. Give thanks, Miss Entu. We have books, Miss Entu's poems and stories for children, Godchild in the back. And we have, we also have Camboulet merch. If you want to get a little Jam It for Life t-shirt or one of these, says No Man No Afraid, which is a love way that Miss Entu did start to sing one morning. And don't forget, calendar workshop, which is stick fight on Sunday, and that's a really important part of the work that we do, reviving and revitalizing our African traditions. And I just want to hail out my brother Keegan, who's in the audience, a big artist, martial artist, soca artist, artist of artists, and he's going to be leading the calendar workshop along with N2 and myself on Sunday at 4 at Ashland Plaza. So come true, right? We'll see you all back in a couple minutes. Give thanks.
And there's a little notebook out there that you could write your opinion, your comments.
What's that royal sound that's bubbling out from your ghetto blaster? That crazy island music that turning the slaves into the master. And see the people gather round, the red, the white, the black. And if you ain't done our ground, you're surely in the background. We go into Mr. Music. We say, please, Mr. Music. Permission to mash up the place. We give the music some jamming space. We're on a roll now. We're feeling alright. Ooh yeah, yeah, ooh yeah, yeah, ooh yeah. We want permission to show Mr. Fun. We've got so much one to give him some. Let the music rule. Let the music rule tonight. Here we go now. Astound you, and there ain't no mystery, just good old sweat and passion. Hear the people tell Mr. Music, don't you end this session. Oh, please, Mr. Music, please, Mr. Music. We want permission to mash up the place, to give the music some jamming space. Show Mr. Fun. We've got so much
If y'all would make your way back to your seats.
Soleil couché depuis 4 heures. Côté m'boile, côté m'rete. Dans toute la ria m'a cherché. La personne, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. La personne, bye bye. La personne, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. La personne, bye bye. Mais malais moins pas coulé, yon vieux chien sous la pluie. Voisinage va le coup de pied, li jappé go l'ennui, la personne va
right, hi everyone. So to round off the evening, we're gonna go straight into Laureates of the Caribbean side B. And this is really like foot stomping, like get up, move, clap, do whatever you want within reason, please. And this is going to be led by Tanya and Attila. Tanya Batson Savage is a writer, filmmaker, publisher, and creative consultant with a love of mangoes. She's currently publisher and editor in chief of the online magazine Susumba and its literary offshoot Susumba's Book Bag, as well as the award-winning independent publishing house Blue Banyan Books, which is the fastest growing trade book publisher in the English-speaking Caribbean. Tanya has written for the paid stage, screen, and radio, and one day she'll write a story about a mango. Her love of stories grew while she was seated at her grandmother's feet, where she developed a passion for folk tales that shines through in her first collection of stories of children, Pumpkin Belly and Other Stories. I read that one and it's excellent. I recommend it highly. Her play, Woman Tongue, received 8 Actor Boy Award nominations in 2016, and her short film script Endeavor earned the award for Best Script in the Kingston Anime Festival in 2013. Tanya is a dear friend and co-conspirator of the BCLF, and I invite you to put your hands together to welcome her on stage. We also have a curation of songs by Cooper Libre. So when you hear the songs, they're not random. They're actually very deliberately selected based on the poet and the work that they're about to perform. So I'm really happy to have you on behalf of my team, the other 2 M's, Melanie, Melissa, and the silent 4th M, Melanie McNair, the Center for Fiction. We've got like a hard 15-minute stop time for each poet because we're trying to pack as much content in. And so, yeah, so enjoy.
Brooklyn, good evening. What? Oh, okay, because I was like, hold on. I thought it was Caribbean people. And no, they have manners. Everybody has manners, right? Let's try it again. Good evening. Okay, because I know you got some spirit earlier, so you are supposed to be very spirited, because my understanding is this session is going to be fire. Una ready for the fire? All right, so let us jump right into it. First up is Saida Agostini, who is a queer Afro-Guyanese poet whose work explores how Black folk harness mythology to enter the fantastic. Her work is featured in Plume, Hobart Pulp, Barrel House, Auburn Avenue, among others. Saida's work can be found in several anthologies, including Not Without Laughter, Poems of Humor, Sexuality, and Joy, a chapbook reimagining the life of Nellie Jackson, a Black madam and FBI spy from Mississippi. Her first full-length collection, released by Alan Squire Publishing, Let the Dead In, was a finalist for the 2020 New Issues Poetry Prize and the Center for African American Arts and Poetics Poetry Prize. A Cave Canem Graduate Fellow and a member of the Ladies Brunch Collective, Saida is a 2-time Pushcart Prize nominee and the Best of the Net finalist. Her work has received support for the Ruby Artist Grant and the Blue Mountain Center, amongst others. She lives online at saidaagostini.com. So whether you snap your finger or you clap your hands, please, I beg you, give it up for Saida.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Good. That's good. That I felt a little cautious, but I appreciate it. You know, it's a Friday afternoon, so I am incredibly grateful to everyone at BCLF for inviting me here and to be here with y'all today. I'm just going to go ahead and kick it off. This is the poem that I actually really love to start every reading with. So, and it's my personal wish for the world. Let the world be like my pussy. The first time I looked at my pussy was after reading The Color Purple. You remember the part. Miss Seeley takes a mirror, angles it between her own soft black thighs, and gasps at the beguiling wonder of wet purple dusk. Blind to the mundane tasks of the day, Mr. or even shug, and the hazy delights her lips can erupt unbidden. Why labor when your body is built for pleasure? Let the dishes go unwashed. Let the food stand moldering, fringed with its own new fungal birth. Look at yourself and know what is at the center. I've taken thousands of photos, my fingers a sacred V, cradling the clit and labia like light she keeps changing. 6 days a month, pussy is a wraith, bitter, bloody, and turning, madder than apples, limbed with its own haunting. Then pussy becomes a centaur, winged, pounding, soft, and glorious. Charging, she is, in short, impossible, but a revolution, a volta when another pussy is locked against her. I know the world can be like this, curling and attentive, lovelorn and imperious. Angle the mirror closer. Let us know that in any language or form, we are utterly, unerringly beautiful. Let us find the center, a shining galactic aperture, and begin again. I always really like saying that. I am like worried about, I come from a very conservative Guyanese family. So I am like, oh, what is this going to feel like when I read this in front of my parents? You know, I think my dad might have a heart attack, but he also did tell me that, like, one time he was like, you should get some turtlenecks. Have your mother buy you some turtlenecks. But that's another poem for another time. So this is my very first collection of poems. It's really pretty. And it is actually dedicated to my family. So my family comes from Guyana, and one of the things that I became really obsessed with when I actually had the opportunity to go back home is learning about Guyanese mythology. And I met with someone who was a storyteller. His name is Old Man Pappy. And he said something to me that really has stuck with me. He was like, the mythology of Guyana and across the Caribbean was used to subjugate and oppress us. Right? So my curiosity was like, how do I change that? How do I shift it? And so everyone knows about the Old Haig. Yes, I see some yeses. And I heard some, I don't know. So just in case you don't know, the Old Haig is supposed to be a hunchback old lady who leaves her skin at night and flies above the river in a ring of fire. Sorry? Oh, in Guyana, they call it the Old Haig. Well, yeah. So anyways. So I was like, this sounds dope. Like, why, because like if they think you're one, they beat you. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. So I wrote about it. It's called The Old Haig Goes Hunting. Legend holds that I'm ugly and stooped, covered in frightful disdain. I glory in my own sight. Naked, black, wrinkled flesh, breasts, low-hanging, ripe fruit, my sex a shining damp shell. At night, while you slumber, I go flying, crowned in blue fire above the Mahaika, my skin left sleeping in bed. There are those who would argue my midnight visits spur madness, report of women who cut machetes as they would my breasts and do a violence to their men. I say the taste of me intoxicates, bewitches my beloveds to cut what keeps them tethered and sighing, toiling in heat for a man that does little good. In truth, this way is no easier. Boys spread white salt and rice and strict lines to bar me from my own skin, my own beloveds shy with fear when they first see me. But then I reach out my hand, hold them to my chest, and sing the history of old Black women digging and crafting this ancient earth into consciousness. I say, this is yours, take it, and they come, shuddering with power. So, I'm a survivor of intimate partner violence and sexual abuse. And so I'm just always really aware of it, right? The ways that we see it and also the ways in which it's hard to talk about. And so there is, I don't know if folks are familiar with Daniel Holtzclaw. He was a police officer in Oklahoma City that intentionally, yeah, folks know, that intentionally went after Black women and children in low-income areas because he thought no one would believe them. And so this is a poem I wrote about his court case and the first woman who spoke out against him. Upon discovering that Daniel Holtzclaw's first accuser was a 57-year-old grandmother, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And there's an epigraph. I thought, my God, he is going to kill me. Survivor testimony. I think of the kiss of the cutlass against stalks of sugarcane, black sweaty arms swinging, dark hands tending to white necks and pots of plain food. Think of the lullabies of the Pomeroon, long-limbed stories of slave uprising, 15,000 strong, knives sunk into the hearts of masters, blushing blood onto the wet banks of the Demerara, the slaves that marooned there. Great, big, beautiful Black women with hard stomachs and pipes chock full of tobacco. No one knows how many men died here. The bloodletting turning rivers pitch black, white men buried at night by the shore. Oh, and the gardens they grew in their graves, roots of callaloo, cassava, and yams cleave to the bones of jumbies. Demons can't kill you if you make them feed you. They make a feast of organs, turned into mangroves, nursed out sweet-baked pone, curried laba, dal, and pepper pot. My great-granny had her own garden amidst graves, tilled soil until whole generations fed off of stewed riots and grief, wiped their mouths and call it sweet. Think of the grannies who wrestle their demons every day and usher it onto a plate, a slave master's head seasoned with brutal economy. Imagine the armies of grannies behind Daniel Holtzclaw's accuser, their sacred breath on her shoulders as she spells out cold Black words, strong as divinity. You tried to kill me, you should have tried harder. So I'm trying to decide what to read. So I'm going to read this other poem. I write a lot about survivors because I am a survivor and it's something that just really connects to me. There are a series of poems in here about Black women specifically and Black girls. And this one is called Bresham Meadows Speaks on Divinity. For those of you who may not know, Bresham Meadows was a young 14-year-old girl, Black girl, nearly convicted of killing her father. Who she killed in self-defense. And even though she warned prosecutors and told people consistently, they never believed her. And so this is the poem. It's called Bresham Meadows Speaks on Divinity. God is a Black girl who once had to kill her own father. Say the social workers listened with kind white eyes as she wept. Her bare skin a constellation of ripening bruises. Say God shuddered on walks home. Ran away 15 times before she was 13, sat in tight, airless rooms, hustled up in sleep clothes and stank breath, repeated her rosary. He beats us, he beats us, he beats, he beats, he beats, he beats. How the counselors shook their heads, asked questions like, does he hit you with an open or closed hand? Buttoned their good woolen coats in the blind Ohio winter and took her back home. When God comes to school, wailing, breaking chairs, screaming, he will kill me. A chorus of white women hover around her, confused lovely angels, pronouncing her name a supplication. God cut herself to remember or forget how history changes. He will kill me to, are you sure? How she dreamt at night of trees and running, her mother's head cleft into galaxies of blood, her father's hands thick, dark, laughing rocks, carving their flesh, her mother begging her not to tell, says, he will kill me. And God can't stop imagining the sweet jump of a trigger. God cried over her father sleeping, gun in hand, how the bullets exited the chamber, how he died, saying her name, God bloody and keening on the floor, her mother screaming, a break knitted into the end of a heartbeat, God's arms around her father. God is a Black girl in love with living, a sacrament on how to be disbelieved, forgotten, and rise 1,000 times over. So I think I have 6 more minutes. I don't know. Guyanese people have a very interesting relationship to time. Or me, I don't know. It could be just my family. I don't know. You could talk to my parents. I don't know. So I wrote a series of poems called Chicken Foot, that a man I made up, and then I just had him do random things. And so this is one of the poems, and it's called Chicken Foot Loves at age 13. Chicken Foot loves. His mummy, her face a waxing yellow moon, the chin a dark field curled and twisted. Every Sunday, Chickenfoot tends this garden with her, tweezers in hand, a slight silver mirror grasped in her palm, the color of ripe plantains hissing in a pan. Each follicle loosed from her flesh, more stubborn than the next, black hair encased of a bulb of white. Chickenfoot loves her beard and the flesh that rears it. Even when she weeps, declares herself too ugly to go to church and even look at God. Curses her stubborn blood that makes new things grow, even when she has killed it with her own hands. Chickenfoot loves Reginald from Section K. Their lips firm against each other in the one shadow old lady Wong's house provides. The pleasure their tongues rear in each other. Chickenfoot loves Reginald even more when he and a gang of boys beat him for walking too sweet to the cricket field. The calls of faggot bleeding through the air. Chickenfoot's fists joining with Reginald's chest again and again. How Reginald keeps rising to his feet, stubborn and bold, till the boys leave him be and Chickenfoot leads him home. Sat Reginald down in his own bedroom and wept. Why I hurt you? Their hands growing into each other, rushing to close the wound. So I'm going to read 2 more poems. Yes, 2 more poems. I got time for 2. All right. So this is called Two Fat Black Women Are Making Love. 2 fat Black women are making love. And the joke is right there. Ready, shuddering, and alive, rife with promise. There are so many paths that have been worn out for a quick, easy laugh. Tyler Perry strutting with a gun and wig, screaming rotund and loud like a Medea would. Martin calling out, "Yo mama" on television, or the meme of a young woman shot underhand, her belly in love with a tight skirt, hands moving towards an open mouth. Look at everything she devours. Imagine it. Does it make you hungry too? 2 fat Black women are making love on a bed on the floor, and they are weeping for joy. They are crying, great folds of flesh flushing and shaking. One cannot look into the mirror save for thinking of her daddy. All this ugly and skin together counts the men who say they hate her body as they do bitter cops and dead Black boys. 2 fat Black women are making love, and they touch each other like they can hold it. Honeyed, profane, body, like patriots, like their bodies have never been folded into freezers, screamed at on streets, coaxed or threatened, sweet, like they have names, like we will know them. So I'm really close to my mother, my mommy. And so she asked me why I keep telling all of our business. And I was like, I don't know. But I wrote this poem to try to explain it to her, and this is what I came up with. I write of my mother in the Book of Joy. Most evenings finds Mummy pacing down cooling paths in a blaze of blossoms. Nothing that lived in Guyana can be nursed here. So instead, her resistance is found in the bud of hydrangeas, gladiolas, and a love of hummingbirds. The most common of flowers will be tended. During the summer, she glories in the rightness of blooming, dedicating hours to pulling errant weeds that choke the root. Even in winter, she is pledged to nursing life. In the bitterest of Maryland snow, think on the 4 lime trees sheltering in our house by the dining table, forcing my blustering father to cower at least for a short while in its branches. Neighbors come by to exclaim at the impossible orchard reared among wood-planked walls. My mummy, the stubborn farmer, laughing proudly by its fruit. Requests for advice returned with exacting directions on wind, sun, and timing. Yet, when my sister and I hear her, what we think of are 2 little girls reared less gently than this. Her, a young, lonely mother with sometimes brutal hands. But here I am, crying at the lesson of her bowed back in the garden, hands dug into a mire of dirt, stubbornly willing love into life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saida. And thanks for literally bringing the fire with the story of the old Haig slash Sukuya. Up next, we have Haitian-born Enzo Cylon Surin, an award-winning poet, educator, speaker, publisher, and social advocate. He's the author of 4 collections of poetry and the recipient of a number of honors, including a Brother Thomas Fellowship from the Boston Foundation and grants from the New England Poetry Club and Chateau d'Orquevaux in France. My French very bad. Surin's work has been featured in numerous publications, including by the Poetry Foundation and in Poem a Day by the Academy of American Poets, and has been commissioned by the Boston Opera Collaborative. He is founding editor and publisher at Central Square Press and founder, executive director at the Faraday Publishing Company, a non-profit literary services and social advocacy organization. Please welcome our brother from Haiti, Enzo Surin.
What a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I have to say that I was deeply moved when IET was invoked earlier as part of the conversation. I often feel like there's a private struggle that continues to exist for those who are of the Haitian diaspora. And so it meant a lot to me to hear that. And for my son, who's here with me, Nicholas, for him to hear about that as well. Thank you. I'm excited to be here because I grew up in New York. I spent half of my life in New York City, so I feel like it's fitting to be back in a city not only that I spent half of my childhood, but also to be surrounded by my fellow Caribbean folks. It means a lot to bring Nicholas back to this, but at the same time, it helps me figure out how to frame the immigrant experience in America, especially the Black immigrant experience. I often think about how it's clearly at play in this fraught narrative that this country has continued to tell, where we watch people disappear right in front of our eyes and they're claiming nothing has happened. Being a Black immigrant means you disappear twice in America. And the one place that keeps being targeted is our bodies. And if they don't get us, they try to get us to get us. I want to start with my first book, When My Body Was a Clenched Fist, which chronicles growing up here in New York City. The first poem I would like to read is a poem titled, the title poem is My Body as a Clenched Fist, is a 5-section poem, one section per borough. So it is paying homage to New York City. But it is also, in terms of a fist, each section represents a digit. But I'm only going to focus on the first 2 sections, which talks about when a body is afflicted and then the aftermath of what happens, almost like a gaslighting of sorts. My body as a clenched fist. 1. Affliction. It was a gust, no, a burst of air that brought the coil to my hands time and again. And no matter what I did to flex, it didn't budge. It almost always brought me back to Leon walking beside me. Then it once felt motion not there, except for the treads of his shoes making its way down the street he didn't know was a one-way, the wrong way. When he doubled back, it was clear that something cannibalized the way home. I vetted the treetops for a place to perch, a vantage point beyond the crowd that had gathered to watch the fight, but there was no fight. It was all one-sided. 7, strike that. 10, strike that. 18, strike that. 20 pair of fists and Timberland boots bear down into the boy, and only sight of fight in him, with his body balling up like a fist to brace the rush of even more fists. What could I do? What could I have done? They had begun to also cannibalize passers-by and onlookers. I did what was customary. Collected faces for the dying old course when there'd be another way to put fears and the cheers into a vista that wouldn't involve more fist, but that day never came. And when a fury this strong begins to court a young fist, when anger's calibrated with fondness for rancor, there's only one end. To fight monsters, you must yourself become a monster. Aftermath. There was no sign it ever took place, no dents in the universe, no visible wounds from where the paratroopers landed their blows, no traces of Leon, no parallel bruise except in your ribs, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sun. No physical wreckage, shard of bone, no raging fire or smoldering carcass, just an echo in your bones and veins and in the fists you packed for the day, just sun, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sun. No shortcuts, same streets, same trees, and you staring at yourself like the body's purpose was to harbor this universe of cavity, wide enough to muse. Maybe there was still a way, so certain there was still a way to walk away or undo what was done. But with no body, no witnesses, no one to talk to, no Leon back at school, no sign the universe was ever disturbed except in your bones and in the loaded fists you carried in your pocket. You sat in class, reviewed homework like you always did, later at recess, in that odd, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sun, whispering to the ball in your hand, shot taker and rebounder, because even at 13, you already knew that sometimes teeth are a gateway to the city of one's own understanding, and other times they are a gate for what ails, and with no credible witness to corroborate other than your own reflections in storefront windows, the ceaseless parading of 2 bodies, a balancing double-barrel pair of fists, you settled into the glaring aftermath, alone, glazed in that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sun. I'm going to ask you to take a collective breath with me because a lot of these poems require that in between. So we have to love our young black boys because they are disappearing within their own bodies and their own minds, and they're feeling like no one really cares. There's something about this country that continues to push us towards this, and I mentioned the immigrant experience in a poem I titled Voyager, which is in my most recent book, American Scapegoat. I talk about what it's like being an immigrant and black. You are a speck, azure and dust in a galaxy called potential. Potential to bust in that what have you done for me lately, Milky Way. Weight of the way says stop caring before the world does, in that you're not going to amount to anything worth remembering. Like a rogue planet, immigrant and black, second born, brother of your father's son, a speck through the lens of ephemeral gazes and constant stares. You master constellations like mazes, their eyes rolling blue planets, and others filled with oceans, in awe of the possibilities, galaxies light years away, while at home cities become oceans and black moons become dust, And every day, something threatens to launch you into the interstellar space of your very own body. The body keeps showing up here. I remember these basketball courts, right? How interesting it was that we all just showed up and you didn't have to know the person. You would just join up on teams. And they used to have courts with nets. And then eventually they took the nets away and they replaced them with these chain nets. But then if you think about it, hearing the bling of chains every time you made a shot did something ancestrally, I think. Why did they move the regular nets and put in the chains? And then it got too much because we got too wise probably, right? So now they moved the chains. And so now every time you made a shot, it was hard for you to figure out whether or not it was a made shot or an air ball. You had to rely on somebody else. So you had to trust not yourself anymore, but somebody else and hope they would be honest about whether or not you made a made shot. But now you can look at a lot of these basketball parks without rims. And I kept thinking about why they keep taking things away. And someone said, well, there is no racism in America. And I said, I wrote a poem about that. It's a much longer poem, and I'm going to only read a very short section of it. And it's a poem titled Weather, Whether, in American libretto, but I also talk about weather. Whether or not you believe in weather, it will happen to you. Will find you without warning, it doesn't care. Whether or not it hurts is of no consequence, nor a building or levees collapse, or the trees, the wind, and nature's fury. A mother country with no deal to be made, and with no care about whether or not you have been under the weight of an already murderous reign, and that your life regiment is regimes doesn't matter. Whether or not despots have already marked these spots with death, the earth rumbled and crumbled huts and monuments alike like it didn't matter. Whether or not we made a living out of the sum of dirt underneath our fingernails, or that it paled in comparison to the flamboyant trees retreat out of reach, or whether or not we were heard, or that our mystery was misread, or that we believed despite being misled, or that we were the orphans of a republic that is both bullet and barrel, splitting our carapace like a cell splits the body into hemospheres, both air and trumpet, splitting our chords into a memo read like an omen, splitting our chords into particles and articles of refuse. We matter like groans matter in a slum, like leathery skin in the summer sun, or like the sum of a skillful gun that knows, whether we moan or not, our absences will never trump the lower breath snuffing us out. You can tell me it's not happening, but I'm feeling it, I'm experiencing it. And I realize that eventually, when you move those chains, you have to prove that something did happen to you, even though you may watch it in broad daylight. And I recognize that maybe America ails with the fact that they don't consider black people to be human beings. And so in talking about Freddie Gray in Baltimore, all they kept talking about was CVS being burnt down. CVS. And I remember thinking, okay, maybe we shouldn't be talking about just black people. Say, imagine you didn't know what race Freddie Gray was. Does that matter? So I said, let me write a poem from that point of view. It's a suite. So it's dedicated really a 4-section suite, but I'm going to read the first one just to give you a hint of why I kind of feel like America needs this awakening. I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read one last poem. Gray's Anatomy, the Freddie Gray Suite, 1. Imagine a tin can's semi-erratic clang as it is being transported without restraint in the back of an empty, lauded truck. Imagine a rag doll, or the fling of a mop's flop, or a rogue, freshly peeled honeydew melon at the mercy of the groove floor bed of a truck. Imagine a shell-less soft-boiled egg or a baked sweet potato rolling off the makeshift counter of a bench. Imagine it is being tossed in the truck like it is born of a dung sack nation. Imagine it has ears and can hear itself crack open. Imagine you can hear it crack open in the back of a truck, and it sounds like a tea kettle whistle. Imagine it is the sound the throat makes when it has broken away from its voice box. Imagine a man attached to the voice and the throat and the sound of a cry that sounds like something has cracked open. And imagine he tosses haplessly in that metal truck, and nobody gives a fuck. Not the driver of the truck, or how the man's body fell to flutter to the ground as he lost consciousness, or how the clanging of cuffs were one of the last sounds he heard, and how his gut may have felt when he entered the back of that truck. He was on the verge of being relegated to compost. I think if Freddie Gray was still considered to be property, more of a fuss would have been made about his death. Because America still cares about destruction of property and not people. It made me think about being a black father raising two beautiful sons. As I mentioned, one is here today, Nicholas. I'm down here celebrating his birthday with him this weekend. And and my youngest, Michael, who is 5, who really wanted to be here. I told him next time. But as a father, I started to experience not just my own fears, but what it felt like to be the father of two young black boys who were starting to grow up. And as we know in America, once a kid reaches a certain age, they're not kids anymore. And so I got tired of trying to answer a lot of questions myself. So this last poem is a poem titled When Night Fills with Premature Exits, because I want people to tell me, and by people, I don't mean us. I mean the powers that be that claim we are not victims. I want them to tell me the answers to these questions. I thank you in advance before I read this poem for your attention tonight. These poems are not easy poems to listen to, and I appreciate you celebrating this moment with me as the gathering of many tribes in this room tonight. When night fills with premature exits. Is there a place where black men can go to be beautiful? Is there light there? Touch? Is there comfort or room to raise their black sons as anything other than a future asterisk? At risk to be asteroid or rogue planet, but not comet, to be studied with awe and clamor and admired for radio trajectories across a dark sky made of asphalt and moonshine, to be celebs and deemed a magnificent sight. Merci en pile. Thank you very much.
For those of you who were here earlier, you were treated to a wonderful conversation led by our next writer. Andre Bagoo is a poet and writer from Trinidad. He's the author of several books of poetry, including Trick Vessels, Pitch Lake, and Narcissus. His poetry has appeared in several journals, and he was awarded the Charlotte and Isidore, I cannot pronounce that word, sorry, I forgot to ask, Payawansky, Lord forgive me, that's really bad, prize in 2017. His collection, The Undiscovered Country, was published by People Tree Press in 2020 and won the 2021 OCM Prize for Nonfiction. Please welcome Andre Bagoo.
Thank you so much. What an honor to stand on this stage tonight. So I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and like this country, in Trinidad, we too have a problem with police killings. The following poem is based on a true story of a pregnant woman who was actually attending a protest against police killings and was herself killed after a police officer mysteriously fired a bullet. Ornella. She knew. A camera phone is a shield against the onslaught of lies and rumors. She saw what was happening, the savagery trained on their bodies. She thought of the child in her belly, how one day that could be him, lying in the dirt next to the highway, or slumped in a car with his birthday cake, or shot in the back with his hands up in surrender. Not worth it, her mother said. Come back inside. But what kind of world was it when police could shoot an unarmed man, then say he asked for it, then shoot the protesters, then silence their critics? When $1 million CCTV networks see nothing, when body cameras don't work, when authorities have no authority, when they probe and investigate and inquire and inquest and still cannot see what phone cameras can. Son after son after son, the same poem written again and again, lines cut like lives sliced, the poet deranged, images of blood making halos around smashed heads that will never dream again. And after each death, each unjust killing, the Cheshire Cat Commissioner of Police brings a red rose to the funeral and puts it on the casket. Ornella, her Italian name, meaning flowering ash tree, said to come from aurum, the Roman equivalent of gold. After Alfred Mendez, Pitch Lake, 1934. The dirt, the steam, the tar, the path that takes you far from the shop, the smell of a hot kiss, soft, spongy, and then unyielding like hardened pitch. The wound, the cut, the oil. The scientists disagree. Why is there life where life should not be? The corpse, the bird, the spell. Time a carpet that bells. We break up. Clumps of regret bathe in molasses. Walk on the first roads of Washington and New York. The bottle, the rope, the ship, the crenulations of bark, the circles inside a tree, the waves of asphalt feeling, growing like the sea. In these sulfur pools, I see the craters of Titan. The indecisive grass is drowned. Under this marbled tarpaulin, spirits fight, mark their rounded mounds, their bubbling cries. The stomach, the wail, the curse. Should I? Could I? What will they think? What do I feel? Will I heal? Will I break? The pit, the pith, the piche. Bacteria wed to stone, yearning for home. Go to the door, open it, step onto it. The house, the wind, the ache. Remember, nobody sees the same lake. Chapter 2. That morning, the radio was playing a song that felt familiar, even if I didn't know the words, didn't understand the language. I recognized the grainy static, the tinny voice, the muffled beats as though they were my thrumming heart, as though they were the rain that had fallen last night on the galvanized roof as you slept on top of me, smelling of too much cologne, your two Venezuelan friends huddled on a bed in the corner, and something rising in their chests like bread dough, some cloud, some dream, breaths now floating into the air as I float out of the house. The yard, I pass the chickens, I pass the dogs, and someone follows me. Am I remembering correctly? I have a strange feeling, as I did the night before, a feeling that there are sagas inside me waiting to be written, epics as heavy as the gold chain you wore as you thrust into me, and I tried to muffle my moans because it was all so sketchy. And even as I surrendered to pleasure, I still thought the weight of your pendant slapping my flesh was like the weight of something I might one day carry, some foundation stone, some temple. I didn't know where the taxi stand was, and I asked a man who gave me directions, then decided he would walk the short distance with me. Later, I roamed Port of Spain, knowing everybody could tell what I'd done, could smell the smoke from the club on me, could look into my eyes and see the drag queen, the pole dancer, the small room with walls of mirrors, the gravelled yard outside on which footsteps crunch like whispered secrets, and groups of friends look at each other cautiously from a distance, because tomorrow is the question. So this event is called Laureates of the Caribbean, and the following poem is dedicated to V.S. Naipaul. So no, don't cuss me, don't cuss me as yet. Listen, wait. So, on this stage last night, Elizabeth Nunes spoke about the legacy of colonialism. And of course, Naipaul is incredibly problematic in so many ways. But I think he was as much of a victim of colonialism as anyone else. Perhaps to some extent, he drank the Kool-Aid far too much. One thing that struck me, he died a few years ago, and there was this story about how this man who had written 34 books of prose on his deathbed read a poem, which is called Crossing the Bar by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And this poem is called Crossing the Bar. Sunset and evening star, the portrait begins with unresolved endings. The lash of empire, the contract of Cain, begins with forefathers and a father scribbling on water. Begins with what it means to sail beyond sunset, once across the Middle Passage, once to England, once to the afterlife. What is the quiet limit of the world? It is the idea of beginning again no matter what, closing doors, writing first sentences, opening windows. Italian scientists have discovered that if you look long enough into a mirror, strange faces will appear. Multiple deformations of one's own image, a parent with traits changed, an unknown person, an old man, a child, a portrait of an ancestor, an animal face, a cat, a pig, a lion, fantastical and monstrous beings. But this portrait begins with you running through paragraphs away from someone who touches you in secret and sets your world alight. Once, I lived in a house where a child kept her favorite book under a pillow, hoping to quench an ache with immaculate prose. You could not live up to her. Yet, there is a cat in one of your novels in which the main character is named after stone, and we know that behind your granite face, beneath the pentameter of your ironclad lines, There is just rain and longing, and a boy crying in the forest with his sister. There is strength and weakness, joy and sorrow, love and hate, poetry and sadism, the hope of early life, the cruelty of old age, the perfected recto and verso of an imperfect self. What does it mean to wound a world that wounded you? A world which, according to the Stoics, is what it is. And what is it, this place in which you now float like a bather in midsummer Tobago, amid hot waves that dig out unseen trenches, and sometimes sand suspended in the backwash adds to the bar that forms the nylon pool. And I imagine you not half drowned, not wronged, not an agent provocateur, but always treading salt, resurfacing, sinking, sometimes aided by the tactile security of a parent's hand, sometimes thrillingly alone, in water that washes over your face, your eyes, so that the liquid becomes a lens, and up there the clouds become J.W. Turner's swirls. Sometimes, to stay alive in water, you must fight your instinct. You must lean back and gently extend your arms and legs. You must control your breathing, and the denser the tears around you, the better your chances of transforming heavy burdens into a moving sleep. It is the fate of all writers to die, to be forgotten, to be reborn, to be held in the hands of others. Sleeping, I see you, dreaming your crossed positions, awaiting the embrace of water, awaiting another ending.
Thank you, Andre. Please give him another round of applause. Jeffrey Phillip, a recipient of the Silver Musgrave Medal in Literature from the Institute of Jamaica, is the author of 2 short story collections, 2 novels, 3 children's books, and 8 books of poetry, including his most recent collection from People Tree Press, Archipelagos. His poems and short stories have been published in the Oxford Book of Caribbean Verse, Essex Salon, Oxford Book of Caribbean Short Stories, World Literature Today, Punch, Visible Rattle, Poets Respond, and New Voices, Contemporary Writers Confronting the Holocaust. Philip's other awards include the Consulate of Jamaica. Other awards include Marcus Garvey Award for Excellence in Education 2022 and a Luminary Award from the Consulate of Jamaica in 2015. One of Philip's poems, Prayer for My Children, is featured on the Poetry Reel at the Betsy, an homage to 12 writers who have shaped Miami culture. He lives in Miami and is working on a graphic novel about Marcus Garvey. My name is Marcus. Please welcome Jeffrey Phillip.
Nice. Steel Falls. Thank you, Brooklyn Caribbean Literary Festival, the Center for Fiction, and to you for being here tonight. You could be anywhere else, but you're here, so thank you. I'm going to be reading some poems from Archipelagos, but before I begin, I'm going to give you a little background information. Most of these poems were written during the lockdown. And the title poem, Archipelagos, was commissioned by Monique Roffey, who wrote The Mermaid of Black Conch, and Colin Grant, who wrote Negro with a Hat, The Rise and Fall of Marcus Garvey. So in researching the poem, I started to read The Nutmeg's Curse by Amitav Ghosh, which was recommended by Diana Macaulay, who wrote Daylight Come, and the book, as Rastafari would say, is livicated to her. Within The Nutmeg's Curse, I began to see the connection between colonialism and climate change. And as I was reading it, that whole idea of disaster kept cropping up. And I remembered Kamau Brathwaite's Middle Passages lecture. And then a poem that I've been wanting to exorcise from my life for a long time, Derek Walcott's Archipelagos, came to mind. So as I was writing the collection, three questions popped up over and over. And the first one is, given our history of colonization, how do we see ourselves and how do we see each other's? And how do others see us? Is there a spiritual dimension to the climate crisis? And how can we correct our vision of how we see ourselves, how we see others, and the environment? So, Archipelagos, after Derek Walcott. At the end of this sentence, a flood will rise and swallow low-lying islands of the Caribbean, like when Hurricane Maria whipped the Atlantic into a ring of thunderstorms that advance in the way Auerbach described her vision of terror. Wooden huts torn away from their foundations were carried away. Women and children were tied to the ceiling beams, but no one could see a tangle of arms waving from the roof, like branches blowing in the wind, waving desperately toward heaven, toward the riverbanks for help. And a man chest deep in the surge that snatched his family from his arms in seas swelling before him, like Columbus and his crew imagined Leviathan, whose mere sight is overpowering, who look down on all that is haughty. But wasn't it pride, greed, gluttony, those sins we've forgotten, for they remind us of what we could have become instead of what we've settled for? That extended our reach like the virus with its crown of spikes, around the waist of the world to the polar ice caps, melting into the ocean that's rising 1 inch every 3 years in Miami, where leatherbacks lumber out of the water to lay their eggs as carefully as I swaddle my grandniece in a blanket. Scenes my daughter remembers in the same breath with the bumper sticker on the first car I owned, Save the Whales. The protest where we marched before she could walk, the war she inherited along with my grandmother's hair, that simple country girl from St. James, home to Sam Sharp and the Maroons, who fought redcoats, whose bayonets were stained with the blood of Africans kidnapped from huts under the growl of the Harmattan sweep over the Sahara, to the rim of the Cape Verde Islands, garlanded by trade winds that complete the circle and begin a new alphabet of catastrophe. Hurricanes that stagger like a betrayed lover, barreling through the islands until its rage is spent on the sands of our beaches, littered with masks and plastic bottles. Thank you. The next poem I'm going to read is called American Welcome. And I know I'll probably get in trouble with some people, but here goes. I'll never forget the first time when, as a recent arrival to America, I had taken a fellowship for a month-long residency in Seaside, Florida, where no two houses on the same street are allowed to have the same picket fence. And eager to escape the white noise of the Lyceum, modeled after Jefferson's academic village, where I had been dubbed the equal opportunity candidate, I wandered outside the gates on my morning jog, as if I was still that privileged schoolboy who could go anywhere he wanted, when a pickup truck with 6 or so rednecks swilling beer on a flatbread bed, they might as well have been on a hunt and wearing white robes, pulled over to the side of the road. A bottle whizzed by while I was tying my shoelaces, and they screamed, "Nigger!" I looked behind me to find the target of their anger, for Garvey had taught me long ago never to answer to that name, and then jumped out of the way before another bottle exploded near my feet. I continued my journey towards the outskirts of town, but now always looking over my shoulder, always running, always out of breath. The collection begins with Christopher Columbus, and it ends with Christopher Columbus. The Admiral, freed by an Obeah woman who wanted a little company every Friday evening. The Admiral, when everyone else was asleep, would crawl down from his pedestal to answer the summons to her bed, where he'd stay until midnight and then ascend to his rightful position, the title he once bore, Viceroy of the Indies. But it had been 3 years since his liberator died, yet her curse remains. Now the Admiral heads straight to her cemetery to pay respects to his mistress, climbs to her shack at the top of Liberty Hill to claim part of the inheritance she'd hidden under her floor, and where he keeps sun-bleached clothes he'd stolen from the poor on Windsor Road like a common thief, so he could roam anonymous through these New World Africans until the rumheads renamed him the Cuban because of his accent. The Admiral hated that name. He preferred the name his mother Susanna had given him, Christopher Colombo, whispered in the soft syllables of her Ligurian tongue. But at least it was better than what one dreadlocked African, whom the Admiral would have sworn had figured out his identity, called him Christopher Gumbuckus. Though furious at the effrontery, the Admiral held his anger and shifted in his chair. His mistress had tutored him in the ways of the island, but he'd never grown accustomed to the speech of these Africans. He moved his chair to eavesdrop on the conversation that had captured his attention. "Tear him ras off the rock," said the dreadlock African, who had escaped the enchantment of empire by studying his reflection. As the images burned on the screen, the Admiral gulped down the rest of his drink and signaled to Rosie for another shot. When he saw the beheading of his statue in Boston, the drowning of another in Richmond, and realized that the African's plan would mean his second death, the Admiral grunted goodbye, and as he staggered up Main Street, he wondered when he'd hear the sound of Africans marching along the roaring river, sunlight glinting off their machetes, the tools of their ancestors, chanting the words of their liberator. We must emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Thank you.
just to make it quick. From my tent to the sink.
Yeah, if we had the time, I would have asked if we play the whole song. But we are at the last poet for the night, and by no means least. Roberto Carlos Garcia is the author of 4 poetry collections, a 2023 New Jersey State Council of the Arts Fellow, and the founder of Get Fresh Book Publishing. Give it up for Roberto Carlos Garcia.
They broke out the bachata, y'all. It's a wrap. You know it's a wrap. I just want to say that I felt it was so appropriate to begin the event with that wonderful conversation, because times might have changed, but they haven't changed that much. And our ancestors, living and gone, still have so much to teach us. And we really got to make time to stop and listen to them, especially as we go back in time right now. We're going back, and they're seeing a lot of familiar things that they saw when they were alive, that they thought their battle did away with. Come back. So it's very important. I feel very blessed and privileged to have witnessed that conversation and heard those stories and those poems. We got a bit of a time crunch, so I think I'm going to read one. Elegy for All of It. Sometimes, if I catch a white person staring at me as I hop in my Range Rover, I imagine them calculating whether or not I need reparations. I mean, they don't know I'm Afro-Latino, but to white racists, black is black, which is true, but not in the way they think it's true. I was almost done eating my beef and broccoli when a white woman strolled into Chow's Walk and ordered a pint of plain white rice, please. Just white rice. I heard the owner ask, nothing else? She repeated, just plain white rice, please. A short standoff ensued. Very short. Should I take your money or spit in your face? Short. The proprietor shouted the order to the kitchen. Shortly, the white rice and the money changed hands. My daughter Lily brought home a Black History Month project. We love baseball, so she chose Jackie Robinson. She read me the short story she was given about Jackie Robinson's life. Jackie Robinson was the first black man to play in the major leagues. In order to play in the majors, Jackie had to control his anger. Pause. I flip ahead. I flip back to the cover. I flip through the assignment instructions, but there is no explanation as to why Jackie Robinson had to control his anger. No racist white ball players, no racist white fans in the stadium, no segregation in baseball, no racism. Institutions will erase racism from history, but be racist every single day. The Monday after Tamir Rice's murder, many white people I knew went on with their lives. Their social media feeds a mix of ironic humor and smiling faces and anything but Black Lives Mattering. I hit like on some of them, waited a few minutes, and hit unlike, and let that hang in the air. Hopefully they struggled with what that meant. The day we learned of Alton Sterling's murder, I ate a long lunch with a white friend, maybe 2 hours, and they never brought it up. The next day, Philando Castile was murdered, and they never brought it up. It went on like this for a while. I counted. Dear reader, I've heard white people say, I don't know, I didn't want to get too heavy. Laugh out loud. At these times, I think of insert any white celebrity getting rich off Black culture. Patron saint of white silence. Dear white reader, we're being slaughtered catch as catch can, but by all means, go back to your daily dose of internet video. We watch men and women level buildings, superheroes we call them. Watch them explode planets and kill millions. We watch for entertainment. It tastes good to us. Walking around Times Square one day, a Buddhist grabbed my wrist and tied a bracelet to it. He offered me countless blessings. He said the bracelet would protect me, and he gave me a little rolled piece of parchment for good fortune. I asked, "What's the catch?" "You see, we're building a temple," he replied, "and we'd like a donation of $10 or $20. I honestly had no cash on me. I apologized. He quickly untied the bracelet, took back his parchment, and left. That's capitalism. In poem for Yusef Hawkins, Felipe Luciano writes, "When black people march back to the sea, they're taking America with them, and no one will be able to stop them." Amen. In the drawing, The Execution of French Soldiers, Haitian revolutionaries are hanging the titular soldiers well into the background for miles and even up into the mountains. The drawing is black and white, but the sky was certainly Caribbean blue, and the sun had to be cooking that wool and silk uniform. Sweat and rope burning the neck flesh. If you look closely, you can see a kind of frenzy on the Haitians' faces. What a spectacular way to end your oppression. To change places with the lash master who just the week before probably beat the blood from your skin. Spectacular. Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Walter Scott, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Stephen Clark, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Amadou Diallo, Kenneth Chamberlain, Jonathan Ferrell, John Crawford III, Jordan Edwards, Botham Jean, Atatiana Jefferson, Eleanor Bumpers, Alberta Spruill, Sandra Bland, Tony McDade, Ayanna Stanley Jones, Katherine Johnston, Deborah Danner, Khalif Browder, Trayvon Martin, Edmund Perry, Jose Garcia, Henry Dumas, Michael Stewart, Randolph Evans, Jordan Davis, Rayshard Brooks, Yusef Hawkins, Oscar Grant, Freddie Gray, Sam DuBose, Terrence Crutcher, Jamar Clark, Jeremy McDowell, William Chapman II, Eric Harris, Akai Gurley, Carlos Ingram Lopez, Sean Monterosa, Jose Soto, Israel Hernandez Lack, Elijah McClain, Magdiel Sanchez, Daniel Harris. Every year of every decade, there is a list. Remember that. Let's see how much of this poem I can get through. The Cost for Aracelis Girmay. 1. My black folk believe we fell from grace. We fell walking the path, and bad language, philosophy, or faith brought the Europeans upon us. We paid a price we didn't decide. Now we know the cost. One night, singing in my sleep, I had a dream of a steady rocking like a metronome. In the dream, I felt a rough brown hand on my head and heard him sigh, "I am Esteban." I opened my mouth and candies fell out. "An offering," cried Esteban. "We begin." Half naked in a filthy loincloth, I stood on a wooden deck, moldy mast, Portuguese flag stitched in a sail, the entire ship in flames and sailing along. Esteban waved. "Come, mulatto, see the first shore." Tree-dressed mountains, cotton clouds and blue skies, this island and so many like it. Clear waters, pink sands, our people dancing and drinking, dressed like lords, grinding each other to calypso, bachata, soca. Our flags, red and blue, black and red, yellow and green. And closer, sand choking on beer and tequila bottles, the bloody, shackled feet of carnival dancers, resorts, shining pools of water in the hills. A white man posed on a flat green patch. I thought he waved at us. He was testing the wind. Swung his golf club. Wind-pressed t-shirt over his belly, all-inclusive in bold black letters. Esteban laughed a bitter laugh. The waters began to rise and rise. Hurricanes spun, a seascape. The carnival never stopped. Costumes and all, the storm dragged island folk off land. The resorts and white men golfing blew bubbles and sank to the depths without a sound. The water so clear you'd see Middle Passage dead at the bottom. What are my brothers and sisters thinking as they dance? After all the declarations of independence, decades pretending white government, white wigs and all. The European colonies exist unchanged in our minds. Esteban grabbed me by the neck and asked, "What do you see in the water?" 2. You are 16 and at a pool party. The girls are pretty. The party is a Latino party, but you know the drill. Your own family warns you against dating black people, yet here you are, the only black person at the party. Latino, sure, whatever that means, but black. As the time to enter the pool approaches, gradually less and less friends engage you. You feel like a guest that's not being asked to leave, but you feel like a guest that's no longer wanted. The other kids start getting into the pool. No one is inviting you. No one is acknowledging you. Foolishly, you start speaking to people in Spanish. You are trying to prove something. No one is listening. You are ashamed of your desperation. Deep inside you, waters are crashing loudly. You leave the party and nobody notices. A few days later at school, nobody asks you how you liked the party. They talk about it as if you weren't even there, as if you hadn't been invited. Later, you'll learn about segregation and pools, the one-drop rule, the one black toe in the water rule, across all the Americas. You learn that DNA is genetic memory, just like water. You learn we paid a price we didn't decide. Now we know the cost. 3. My son asks why he's not brown like me. I have the other talk with him about passing and not being able to pass. And don't you even think about passing. Memory takes the moment. I'm running in the rain with friends. The rain stops against my hair, sits like wax on a wooden table. My afro is not grass laying under water's weight. Your hair is not soft like mine. You can't do this. The hand, a buffing pad, makes a shine. A lacquered lawn I want to torch. So I slap my friend in the name of that narrative. White is good. Black is bad, good hair, bad hair. You shall not pass. And I tell my son that. 4. I wanted to wake up. Esteban gave me a bottle of rum. Colonizers gave us these islands, little fiefdoms of diaspora, a trap. Colonizers really loved the weather, but in the end, we became intolerable. Now they rule us with banks. How long to make slaves into a kingdom again? Little islands, diaspora of Babel. And the more I drank, the more Esteban cried, and his tongue crawled out of his mouth, a great snake. Give me the bottle. Donne-moi la bouteille. Dame la botella. Give me the flesh. We paid a price we didn't decide. Now we know the cost. Thank you very much, everybody.
Julio, thank you so much for coming to Laureates of the Caribbean. Give yourselves a round of applause now, gosh. We've come to the end of tonight's program, and I just want to thank you again for coming and sharing this evening with us. And this is also the end of day 2 of the Brooklyn Caribbean
Literary Festival, and I hope that we see you all tomorrow. It have plenty thing going on tomorrow from 12 o'clock at NYU Brooklyn. There's In Between Novels, and then at 4 o'clock there's I Belong to the House of Music, and then at 5:30 there's the Wajang Discotheque. So please, no social whiners or whiners. Right, and then the weekend continues, right? So, while you reach home safe, don't get caught in the storm, drink a little more rum, warm up yourself, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good evening.